project so far? Can anybody tell me anything?
No.
No, you can't tell me anything if everybody's saying no, you don't know anything about it. All right, so you guys are going to be undertaking a project. It's kind of like a mini project to get you ready for a much larger project you're going to be doing later this year called STEM, your STEM project or STEM fair. So this is kind of like a mini bite out of that process. Sometimes it's easier to work with things that they're sort of in bite-sized chunks. So what we're going to talk about today is a tool called Easybib that we just got for our school. It's a really cool tool. It helps you build your citations. Do you remember how we used to have to do citations and you had to know what was print, what was web, and the web address and the date you were there? Do you remember any of that from last year and the year before and year before? Yeah. Right, so this tool helps us build those a little faster, and it's a way to share your information with your teacher as well. So I'm going to back up just a little bit and talk about citing sources. So we're going to cite our sources now, starting with Easybib, and we're going to be using MLA7 format. Does everybody know that's what we use here, MLA7, to cite our sources? So I just want to show you what a works cited page looks like. I know you guys are used to hearing the word bibliography, but bibliography and works cited are sort of the same thing. The only difference is that when you talk about MLA7, you talk about a works cited page, not a bibliography. But if I use both of those words, because I can kind of use them interchangeably, I'm really talking about works cited. Does that make sense to everybody? So bibliography, works cited equals the same thing, all right? So when you create a works cited, it has to look like that when you're done. It has to be double-spaced, it has to be alphabetical, and it also has to have certain things done to some of the words. Like you notice some of the words are italicized, they kind of lean, right? You know what that means? So it's very, very specific. And the reason it's so specific is, can you imagine what it would be like for your teacher if she got a works cited for every single one of you guys and you formatted all your sources differently? How long do you think it would take her to grade that?
Long time.
Huh?
Long time.
Long time, right. So we standardize on a format that your teacher knows and she's familiar with, and that way when she looks at this, she can look pretty quickly to know if you got some of that formatting right. And then she can go into each of your different sources and look and see if they were good sources, credible sources, and we're going to talk about that more when I see you next week. But the idea here is works cited is just a list of all the sources you use to compile your research effort. Do you guys remember doing Animoto back in 3rd grade?
Yes.
I know Mrs. Ray remembers it. Remember how we had to write down all of our sources for that? Yeah. And we had to create a works cited and we had to put it into our Animoto video. Same thing for STEM. STEM is huge on your works cited. It could be a place where you lose a lot of points on your STEM fair project if you don't do this correctly and you don't cite all of your sources. Okay, make sense? So when I say cite, does anybody know what I really mean? I mean, when you hear that word, does anybody have any idea? Like, you want to give me, what do you think when you hear the word cite? Besides, oh, this is a real pain.
Website?
Websites, you can cite websites, sure. What else? What else comes to mind? Yep.
Construction site.
A construction site. Oh, because you're thinking S-I-T-E, not C-I-T-E. Yeah. So cite and cite, yeah, they're spelled differently and they mean very different things. So cite goes along with citation. C-I-T-E, okay? All right. So some people ask me, well, what is this MLA7 thing? I don't even understand that. What is it? Well, I want to tell you a little bit about it because sometimes it's nice to know why we're having you do something other than just say, oh, go do it, take my word for it. So MLA stands for Modern Language Association, and they've come up with this style of building your citations. And look what it says here. It's generally simpler and more concise than other styles. And believe me, that is absolutely true, because when you get to graduate school and college and some of your science courses in college, you're going to have to use a different style. It's called APA. It's much more complicated. It's almost like hieroglyphics. So MLA is really nice. It's a lot simpler to use, and most schools all across the country use MLA7. And the reason it's MLA versus MLA7 is just because there was once an MLA6, and an MLA5, and an MLA4. So now we're at the MLA7 version of this. It's sort of like a version of software, right? Now we're on version 7. So there's a real thing behind this. It's not something we made up. And we're learning it because you're going to do it from now on, especially when you get out of here and you go into high school. And that tool I told you about, Easybib, they use that in the whole school district. So when you learn it here and you go to Niwot or Longmont High or you go to Skyline or some of these other high schools, pretty much everybody's using Easybib, so you'll know how to use it. Are there any questions about MLA? Yeah?
Do you think there will ever be an MLA?
Probably. So when you use books and internet sources, and especially, I'm going to just kind of zoom in here, websites, and I know how much we love to use YouTube, all right? And we also like to use all of the candy jar resources, all of those sources, right? You still have to cite those sources. So, and when you do your work, and in this case it might be, you know, your fabulous great research report that you're going to do, especially when it comes around STEM time. And I don't know if any of you guys remember A to Z in 5th grade. I don't know, are those groans or are those happy sighs? Well, even the people that do A to Z have to cite their sources, all right? So everybody's got to cite sources. You can't take credit for somebody else's work. You always have to give credit where?
Credit is due.
Thank you, for those of you who remember that. All right, so you know you've got to cite them, all these sources. Well, why? Well, a really big reason if you have to cite sources is because if they support my opinion, if they're backing me up, and there are people out there who are experts who are a lot smarter than me and they're backing me up, I definitely want to tell my teacher that other people are backing up my opinions and my thoughts, okay? I want to maybe have an expert introduce my thought or opinion. So I might put a quote from somebody, you know, like, I don't know, what can I think of? Yeah, like Gandhi. I might put a quote from Gandhi and then introduce my idea or my thought. So it's like having these experts sort of introduce your ideas. And I also want to make sure that when I do a really good piece of work, people really like my work and they want to investigate it further, I'm giving them all the sources I use so that they can go visit those sources. Now raise your hand if you use Wikipedia. It's okay, I use Wikipedia.
I sometimes do.
So one of the first things I do though when I go to Wikipedia is I drop right down to the bottom of the page and I look for the sources that that person used to build that page. Because I don't want to take their word for it because I don't know who they are or if they're an expert, but I'll go look at their sources and decide maybe those guys were the experts and I want to start there. So that's what you're doing when you do reports. You're providing people with a list of all of your references, all of your work cited, all of the experts so they can go investigate on their own. Hugely important. It makes your work a lot more credible. It means that you didn't just make it up. Okay? You didn't open up a book and copy it, or you didn't just, you know, go to Wikipedia and copy everything down. So the biggest why is you have to give credit where credit is due, right? We talked about that a lot. So there's a couple of really good images here I've come across lately, and actually they're all from Easybib. So if you think about it, one of the ways to always remember whether you're going to cite something is if it's your idea or somebody else's, right? So if you look at the first one, it says, are my own words being used? Yes, it's my idea. Yay, you're not plagiarizing. Totally your idea. You came up with it. If it was, is it my idea, and it's no, but yet you want to talk about what somebody else said about that idea, then you're going to paraphrase. You're going to put it into what? When I say paraphrase, what am I talking about? Nobody here knows what it means to paraphrase. Yeah?
Paraphrase means to take someone else's words, change them around into your words, and if there's like anything similar, put it in quotation marks.
I wouldn't say sort of change them around, but what was important about what you said is not even reword it. Put them into your what? Your own words, okay? Think about what you read and put it into your own words, because what happens in my head when I put things in my own words? What do you think happens in my brain? What happens in my brain?
I think that you'd understand it better.
Yeah, you probably remember it better, right? So think about that. When you're standing in front of your STEM fair judges this year, and they ask you to please tell me what something means, and you just copied it, is that going to be locked away in your brain? No, but if you put in your own words, you can have a conversation with that judge based on what you know, because you put things in your own words, all right? So if you're going to paraphrase, now what? You have to add a citation, all right? So are my own words being used? No. Are you using quotation marks or placing something in a block quote? So that means that I didn't change any of the words. I thought it was so important the way it was. I'm not going to change the words, but I'm going to probably put quotes around that information, or I'm going to take the content, the text, I'm going to kind of block it in a little bit so it stands out. All right, and then, of course, I can cite that. I have to cite that. And are you using quotation marks? And it says, no, you're plagiarizing. So the minute you put something into a paper where you're copying it word for word, and you do not cite it, you are plagiarizing. And that is absolutely illegal.
And you've
also-
signed a contract in middle school that plagiarism gets you a 0. That contract you signed had a plagiarism clause in it.
And let me remind you about something else that happens when you get to high school. In the St. Frank Valley School District, a lot of the high schools use a product called Turnitin. Does anybody have any brothers or sisters in high school?
Oh.
Yeah, so they have to use Turnitin. You want to tell them what Turnitin is?
Yeah, so it's where the teachers, they take the paper and they like the paper and like retype it into this website. It's called Turnitin, obviously, and it shows and it goes through a bunch of these different sources and decides whether or not it's close enough to another source that it's plagiarized.
So it was plagiarized, right? So when you submit it to turn it in, you as a student will actually submit it first to turn it in, and turn it in will give you back a score on what percentage of your paper it thinks was plagiarized. And you have time to fix it. But if you turn it in and you don't fix it, the teacher will get that same score, and they may not even bother to read what you've written because the plagiarism score was so high. So you're just learning how to do it here first and kind of getting the practice of it, so by the time you get to high school and you use turn it in, you guys are going to be all over this and you won't get these really high plagiarism scores, okay? Sometimes it picks up on kind of weird things, and sometimes it picks up on things that are definitely plagiarism, but you'll see it once you get to high school. All right, so this is a great little reminder. Deacon, what's your question?
So basically, imagine like you write your own paper, but there's something on there that you didn't know was from somebody else, and then put it in the machine or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, you plagiarized, you get a 0. Hooray!"
No, it's a percentage. So the other one I wanted to show you was this one, and I don't know if this is going to come in really good for us. Actually, I'm going to get out here and see if I can get to it. Did it just kill everything? No, it didn't. I was like, oh no, don't do that. So this is something I just came across the other day that I thought was actually kind of fascinating. It's called "What You Are Is You Are What You Write." And let's see if I can make this a little smaller so you can actually read it. There we go. So you are what you write. So it was interesting. They just did a big research study, and they found out that top 5 most plagiarized sites by students are Wikipedia, Answers.com, Yahoo Answers, Scribd. So those are the top 5. So this is where you guys end up most of the time, especially when you get to a high school level. So these are all just websites, right, that we go to get answers from. 1, 2, these two we call content farms, because there's just somebody who's just putting up answers to questions all day long, and they may not have any expertise. They may be some surfer dude who lives out in California, and for a couple hours a day he goes and he puts answers up on Yahoo Answers and Answers.com. He gets paid $20 per answer that he puts up there. Do you think that's a source you should be using?
No.
No, absolutely not. We don't know anything about those people. We know they're getting paid to do that work, but we don't know anything else. Wikipedia, you guys know about, and Scribd is another one. Has anybody ever been on SlideShare or Scribd? Okay, those are interesting sites too. They're not bad sites. I would actually say this site is bad, this site's bad. These sites aren't bad, but what we tend to do is we tend to copy and paste from them. And we don't give credit to the websites, all right? So that's the problem. And it even says some college presidents have plagiarized. So see, that's not just students, adults will do it too. All right, so don't freak out. Everybody kind of does it. That's what we want to try and stop. So 10 most cited places are Wikipedia, the New York Times, YouTube, JSTOR, which is a great tool. It's a database. We don't have access to it. You will when you go to high school. And what happens is that they're great places to get information from, but people are, again, forgetting to cite their sources. They're just copying and pasting information. They're taking credit for it. BBC News, Associated Content, Time Magazine, Washington Post, Answers.com. So when polled, 61% of the students said they don't always use an outline when writing a paper. So that's another problem. And they like to procrastinate, so you wait till the very end to get it done. And when you wait till the very end to get something done, you're panicking, and what do you start doing really fast? Copying and pasting, right? So it's kind of like a little vicious cycle, right? So we're going to go back here. Back to present. Let's see if I can pick up where we left off. So what I want to do today is I just want to make sure that you guys understand why we're bothering to do all this instead of just say, okay, we're going to do this, and that's the way it works. All right, so plagiarism is cheating. I've been doing a lot of research on the word plagiarism. So it comes from a Latin word for kidnapping. So you're kidnapping somebody else's ideas, okay? And it is totally against the law. All right, so citing sources, it's just the right thing to do, so we're going to do it, and we're going to make it a lot easier for you guys to be able to do. All right, so our objective today is we're going to generate citations using the MLA7 format for all information sources used for research projects, not just websites, not just books, any information source. If I go down the street and I interview my neighbor and they happen to be an expert in, I don't know, aeronautical engineering, can I take credit for that information that that person supplied me with? No, that's an interview. That's an interview, and you can cite that. All right, and I'm telling you what, teachers love it when you go do interviews. It's like the coolest thing. It's very impressive. Okay, so remember, here's the old way that we used to have to do citing sources. Do you remember that? So we had to know last name, first name, author, title of book. We had to know what went where. And I don't know, maybe this will look familiar to some of you guys too. We used to do this too, you know. So, and that's not even a full version. That's kind of a shortened version of what we used to do. It's hard to remember how you cite a website, how you cite a database, how do you cite a newspaper, how do you cite a book? It's really hard to remember all of that. So the tool that we're going to use is hopefully going to make that a little easier for you guys. Now here's the new one. On Easybib, actually I'm going to go back one here, there's some pretty cool things you can do. If I just have the ISBN for a book I happen to be using for that piece of research, I can actually type in the ISBN into Easybib and it will try to create the citation for me. There's an app you can put on your phone that will do that. You can take your phone, you can take an image of the ISBN, and it'll actually generate the citation for you right on your phone.
Oh my goodness.
That's very cool. It doesn't know all books, but it knows a lot of books. And if it doesn't know all the information, it's going to ask you to help it fill in the blanks. That's what I really like about Easybib. You have to do some work too, all right? So, the other thing it can do is if all you know is the URL for a website, you can put that into Easybib, and Easybib will try to generate the citation for you. Again, that's tricky because sometimes information is going to be missing that Easybib needs, and you're still going to have to help it. And that's really important. Don't think it's a done deal just because Easybib spit out an answer for you, all right? All right, so the other really cool thing that Easybib does is, you remember from A to Z how you would go to some of the databases and the citation would be at the bottom for you? Well, all you have to do for Easybib is copy and paste that into Easybib, and Easybib will create the citation and stick it right into your works cited that you're building, which is really, really nice. And you'll see what that looks like as you guys start doing some research. It's a pretty cool tool. So, when you've done it right and you have a good citation, this is what it'll look like. It'll have all the information. This happens to be a book because it says print. Do you notice how this title is what? What has happened to the letters here?
It's
Italicized, right. I can't always remember when I italicize and when I don't italicize. But Easybib will remember. Again, it says bibliography, but what's the word we're going to use?
Cite.
Works cited, all right? Works cited. So it still doesn't, even though Easybib knows a lot of stuff, you have to know the other piece of information, and that is, what do these citations look like? What does a good one look like? What might you be missing? So I'm going to make sure that today Mrs. Ray gets a bunch of these sheets. And these are kind of like little cheat sheets that you can keep with you. So let's say you did, you did a TV radio citation, and Easybib cranked it out for you. Before you say yes to Easybib, yes, I want that citation, you can actually be your own little Turnitin person, Turnitin.com person, and you can check against this one to see if you have all the information you're supposed to have. So there's still a lot on your shoulders, okay? You can't just assume that Easybib's going to get it right. We saw this a lot last year. People came in to print out their works cited, and I'd get them out of the printer and I would look at them, and I would see URL. Is that a complete citation? I would see somebody who did pretty close, but then there were a lot of NPs and NAs. Do you know what that stands for, NP and NA?
Not applicable.
No publication date, and not applicable, or no author. All right, so if we see a lot of citations where there's NA for no author or NP for no date, that tells me that you guys didn't stop and look at your citation before you let Easybib create it to see if you could fill in that information. Right? There will definitely be sources where there may not be an author that you can find. If I can't find an author, though, shouldn't that tell me a little something about what I'm looking at? What do you think if you can't find somebody who's responsible for the source? Huh? It may not be credible, right? So they might be, they may not be, but that's your job to be kind of a detective and figure that out, right? So I'm going to make sure you guys have these sheets so I can't have anybody saying, well, I didn't know what it was supposed to look like. Easybib will actually walk you through every step of your citation and give you a little box that kind of talks you through the whole thing. Like I said, librarians love it. It's so cool. And you can ask Mrs. Ray. We would have loved to have this when we were in high school or even college. We had to do them all by hand.
All by hand.
All by hand. And you know, I lost so many points on every project I ever did in college because I could not always remember, okay, what's supposed to be italicized? When am I supposed to put the date in? What does it look like for a journal or a newsletter or a blog or a YouTube video?
This is where I lost most of my points on my master's project.
Yeah.
Just the my research was fine, my bibliography not so much.
Yeah. So there's a few little things. We're not going to go over those because I want to make sure we have time to get on and do our Easybib bit. So the really cool thing about Easybib is going to help you build that works cited automatically. You can export to a Google Doc, which is great because if you're building your STEM Fair report, if you're writing a report in Google Docs, you can just export all that works cited from Easybib right into a Google Doc, which is really nice. You can export it just to a plain text document or a Word document if you want to. You can share your works cited. Let's say you and a friend are working on a project together. You can share your works cited with your friends. So as they find things, they can be citing sources at the same time you are. And your teacher, you can share it with your teacher, which is what we're going to try and do today. And then if you have been doing A to Z, you can tag them for A to Z, which you guys don't have to worry about. We've talked to 5th grade about that, so don't worry about that one. All right, so now, and you can work, and even once it's done, like even once your works cited is done, let's say you put it into a Google Doc or a Word doc, you can still go in and make changes to it, so you can fix things if things aren't right. All right, ready to try? So we're going to keep it really simple today. So this is like step 1. So what we're going to do today is we're going to create our Easybib accounts. All right, so everybody has to have an Easybib account. We have to create it from inside the building the first time we do it, and then when you go home, it'll know it's you, but we have to do it inside the building the first time. So what we're going to do is I've decided, I think, how many students are in this class?
I think like 28.
Okay, I have 27 Chromebooks out. So
We have some absent, that's why I'm filming.
I would prefer everybody use a Chromebook for this, and I'm going to tell you why in a second. We're going to actually tie our Easybib account to our Google account. And what's really nice about the Chromebooks is once you log in as yourself on the Chromebook, Easybib will know it's you through Google as well, and you'll see what I mean in a minute. If you get on one of the desktop machines, there's a little tricky thing we have to do at the end to make sure you are completely logged out of the system. But we'll figure that out if somebody ends up on a desktop machine. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to the LMC Wiki. Now, to get to the LMC Wiki on a Chromebook, hey guys, I know you're like ready to go, but you need to hear these instructions because I'm only going to give them one time.
Okay, I need everybody sitting down and listening. This is your one shot for the instructions.
And remember, ask 3 than me if you forgot how to do something. So when you get to those Chromebooks, you're going to type in LMC Wiki, you know, up in the URL finder where you type a web address. You're just going to type all one word LMC Wiki. We are the first result on Chrome on Google. So you can click on that. That'll bring up the LMC Wiki. You're going to look for what logo? Right. Once you click on that, and you do have to click on it, it's not going to magically open for you. You're going to look up in that right-hand corner of the window that you get, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. So once you get this window, you're going to click on, right? Because you don't have a login, right? We're going to register. When you click register, you're going to get a screen that looks something like this, but you're going to click on what? Google. And because you're already logged into Google on a Chromebook, it's already going to kind of know a little bit about you, and you're just going to supply the rest of the information, which is just your password, your Google password. So this is your Gmail address here at school, fsastudents.org, and whatever password you use to get into Google, your Google account. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah. Okay, so not your personal account, your FSA student account, right? Sign in with FSA students, Gmail address, and password. All right. And then you're going to make sure after you hit, I think it's like create or sign in or something, what you'll notice is your name will appear at the top. You know, it'll say right up above login register, it'll say your email address, and that's how you know you've got it set, all right? The next thing we're going to do after that is we're going to create a new project, and I'll show you what that looks like. We're going to name it, and we're all going to name this thing the same way. All right, this is really important because your teacher has a million of these to look at. If she starts having to search for things, she's not going to find it, so we're going to make it really simple, okay? So everybody's going to do intro works cited. Does everybody know how to make an underscore? It's just a shift, and then it's a shift and a hyphen. I believe it's shift. Is it shift and hyphen? Now that I say it, I don't know if it's right. Yeah, is it? So we try it. Yeah, shift and hyphen, all right? That's how you make an underscore. First initial, last name. Am I going to see your first name and your last name? I'm going to see what?
First initial, last name.
Right. Then, after you've done that, you're going to look for this button that says share it, and you're going to share with who? tray@flagstaffacademy.org, not tray@fsastudents.org, flagstaffacademy.org. And then you can log out. So I'm going to show you kind of what this looks like. So here I am on the LMC Wiki, right? I'm looking for what?
Easybib.
Easybib. I'm going to click on it.
Hold on, can you go back and do that again? We're just,
Sure.
I was backing out.
Okay.
Baby bib.
That'd be cool if there was a baby bib, then we could teach K through 2 how to do this too. All right, so I'm going to go back. So here I am, and right over here it says citation help, it says Easybib, right? That's what I clicked on.
Okay.
All right, then I'm going to bring this up, and all right, so it kind of looks like, so this is what it should look like. It's got our logo on it. Am I clicking on login or register? Register. Thank you. Now, I've already logged in today, so it may already know who I am. I'm clicking on what here? Am I filling all of this out, or am I coming over here?
Google.
Google, right, I'm going to Google. But I was already here today, and it already knows who I am, so it already logged me in. Do you see where it says Zoe Midler at Flagstaff Academy right here? That's how I know I'm in. Now, it said create new project. I'm going to go here. I'm going to click on that. All right? One of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to pick my style. What's my style? Sorry? Right, I'm going to click that. That's hugely important. I don't want you to pick 6, and I definitely don't want you to pick APA or Chicago Turabian. All right? So, other styles. Intro, works cited, underscore, right? Is that how we're all going to do it? Oops, I forgot my O right over there, so let me get my O, right?
Okay,
This is
I
just
need
an
to walk up here.
introductory works cited. Okay, we're kind of playing. This is kind of our sandbox that we get to play in when we're playing with Easybib. Okay. Okay. Pay no attention to the woman in the front of the screen. All right, and then we would hit what? Close or create? Right. Then you're gonna hit create. Okay, that's done. I'm gonna say close because I've already actually created one here. I think. I have a lot of test ones here. I can just open any of them. I'll just open up this one right here. To open it up, so it'll appear in my list, you should only have one. It's your first one. Click on bibliography, which is another name for? Right. And then what do I see right here? I am going to what? Invite others. Thank you. And I'm going to say, I want this person to view, to edit, and to comment. If you turn all those on. All right, and then I'm going to put what up here? Thank you. And then we're going to hit share. You guys remind me of a scene from a movie that you have no idea what movie it is, but it's The Dirty Dozen, where they all repeat the instructions back. Okay, anyway. So yeah, that's what you're going to do, and then you hit share, and that'll be shared with Mrs. Ray, okay? That's just step 1. Yeah, you think you have enough steps to work with today?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll be around to help you guys. Mrs. Ray can help you guys. And Miss Denise is here too, so she can help. So what I suggest is from this side over, right here, find a Chromebook on this side of the school, this side of the library. You guys find Chromebooks on this side of the library, or I'll put you on a desktop if I need to.
Thank you, Miss Zoe.
Sure.